Hi, I'm Richard Norton. I'm happen to be sitting here at Master Farabor's school, Team Karate Centres in Woodland Hills, and with great fortune, just ran into Graciela Casillas, who's written a book, and it's only come out last week, The Lioness Within. And I've also got my beautiful wife Judi here, and we just thought it'd be a great opportunity to have a very just informal chat about women's self-defense and kind of ideas of where it stands in today's world. And so, Graciela, let me ask you, I believe that the idea of this book is not, there's so many books or instructionals out there that deal with the technical aspect, how to throw a punch or palm heel, but I believe this is a lot more than that, right? It's more about the emotional state and everything.
Right. I think it's important that women understand that before you learn how to kick and punch or how to block a punch, it's important that you're prepared mentally and emotionally how to defend yourself. And so this book addresses that, more the psychological and the mental aspects of self-defense.
Yeah, because we've, I've been conducting a few women's self-defense courses, but of course, not being a woman, though Jeff might debate that, but anyway. But Judi's come along and helped a little bit, and it's been such an interesting journey for me. Not so much even on the floor, but it's the stories you hear usually after the seminar of some of the ordeals, some of the situations that ladies that have attended have found themselves in, and often I've had a lot of ladies say, if only I had done a course like this X amount of time ago, I believe the end result of whatever happened to him would have been very different. And so you kind of go, wow, there's a lot of teaching that needs to be out there and put out there, and especially by other ladies, not just men. And one of the reasons I take Judi along is because Judi's not a martial artist. Maybe we went through half a dozen lessons over the technical aspect of what we're going to do. But I think all of that gives ladies a license to know, no, you don't have to study 10 years, to be able to defend yourself. But you also alluded that at the same token, one of the important messages that you were mentioning before is that also understand you can't just do one class and suddenly feel now you have the skills to defend yourself.
And this book was written for women like Judi who aren't black belts in the martial arts, who don't do this every single day. And the idea is developing that situational awareness and knowing what to look for and how. So you won't find pictures in this book. You won't find, step 1 through 5 on how to, how to defend yourself. It's more preparing you mentally and knowing what to look for. But having said that, it is important that if you do make that commitment, that you understand that it's not like taking an aerobics class or taking if you take a ballet class and you want to become proficient, you can't just go to one class. You have to make a commitment. And learning how to defend yourself is a physical skill also. So it's important that women make that commitment to train consistently.
Yeah, I think too that what I try and put across is, we have a great little saying I use that instead of teaching somebody how to get out of quicksand when they're buried up to their waist, teach them how to see it in the first place and walk around it. Exactly. And I think that doesn't take any actual physical skill, it's a state of mind. And Judi's, you should pipe in because we've got a little house in Melbourne, Australia we're at a lot of the time, and Judi loves to get out the front in the nature strip and do gardening actually all along the street and the next street. So she's subject to the occasional cars driving past or people. There's a block of apartments across the road and everything. But you talk about, because Judi would sometimes say to me, am I getting too paranoid? And I say, you can never be too paranoid. It's better to be wrong about being right.
Yeah, no, I realise that I'm super paranoid about, I guess, personal safety, because when you read statistics, the amount of women that have been approached in a way they haven't wanted to be approached, not even from a violence point of view, just feeling uncomfortable. And so I realised a lot of my paranoia actually it goes back from when I was a very young girl, been in some situations being followed. So over the years, naturally, I've just been always aware to walk on the opposite side of the road, just, if I ever had to go into a place where it is, if a car pulls over, as I said, I'm always on the opposite side, so I'll even go in the wrong direction, just like So I'm always aware of my surroundings, and it's really funny because Richard being a martial artist and I've done a little bit, so sometimes I'm with people who've got all the jewellery and they're like, oh yeah, but you can do this. I'm thinking, don't rely on me, it's better just we be safe, you know. So, you know, obviously with girls, if they're out at clubs, you don't separate, you don't, you know, we were talking earlier about not leaving your drink on a table, you know, because, you know, drugs, things can be put in, and, you know, it's not even about being raped and beaten up. It might be just to take your handbag or something like that. So I think, you know, the thing is not getting yourself in a situation in the first place, and there's just so many obvious things.
Yeah, because I know with Judi, she'll say, oh, could you come outside? There was a car that slowed down on the other side, and I think they stopped, and I think that's huge, you know, because again, the old mindset that, God, men are bad as anybody, of it couldn't happen to me. As I said, you've only got to be wrong once about being right and your life changes forever. So before the physical even starts, I think to educate just common sense things, like, you know, Judi was on a tram coming from the centre of the city and there was this guy that was a little out there, obviously
there were
space
three
of a
of them.
drug. Yeah, and she had the sense to get off way before her stop, just went straight into a shop and just waited there. And I thought,
there was
how good is that, rather than going, oh no. I mean, the amount of ladies that related being assaulted and everything that said, oh, I just had a feeling something wasn't right. And boy, if ever there's a lesson, you know, especially females, you know, have fantastic instincts, I think, and to trust those instincts. Because the worst thing is, again, you're wrong about being right, you know.
But I always think in your neighbourhood where you live, like home invasions, you know, even if it's for your goods in your house. So when I'm doing, you know, the gardening in outdoor areas, like I said to Richard, this is weird. I didn't know so many men are, not so many, it's been a few, interested in gardening, and they're asking me questions, and now I'll say straight up, oh, do you live around here? And, you know, a couple of times these people didn't, you know, there'd been some event on and they'd had to park somewhere, and even though it might all be innocent, you know, I just like don't take the risk, and I always have my way to either get in the house or mainly there's just like things that I've thought through, you know, so I'm not randomly stuck in a spot.
And that's the whole idea of being street smart, but in a different way. It's to not just be aware of your environment, but knowing what to look for, being familiar with, you know, having a strategic plan in case something happened. That's very important. But the other thing I wanted to say, that in terms of training, today there's just so many fads. There's everything from CrossFit to combat fit, whatever you want to call it. But the main thing is, you know, for women to invest in themselves. And there is an additional benefit. You know, obesity is on the rise, and you know, training and working out helps you also stay in shape. So what better way to be in shape and also be able to develop some skills, but knowing that what you're learning really is developing those skills. That's also important.
And I would imagine keeping it simple too, right?
Right.
People don't realise what adrenal dump, as they call it, adrenal stress does to your complex motor skills. And we learn all this stuff, and you think, good luck ever doing that when you feel in threat of your life. So I think having sort of skills that are fundamental and actually quite practical and involves complex motor skills and all of that. But so that's all good. People, in case you don't know, Graciela, this book only, as I said, came out a month ago, but it's such a fantastic read. I was just reading on the back about your records. This 31-0, is that in boxing or in kickboxing?
It's a combination of boxing.
Combination of boxing and kickboxing. Graciela's career 31-0, 18 by KO, holder of World Women's Boxing Association bantamweight titles. The list goes on, and of course she's founder and head instructor of the Inosanto Academy. You know, sorry,
he was my instructor.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I'm reading that at Dan's. Yeah. But your particular academy is, where is it again?
It's in Oxnard, California.
Yeah, Graciela does seminars and that all over the place. So anyway, but just a little chat. Great to have a chat. Thank you, Judi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Graciela.
Thank you.